good shot to play up on that loose ready. Just coming to terms with the speed of the table now,
60.
I think. But like I say, if you hadn't watched him play before, you'll already get the point that Philip was making, that he's not a slow player. He likes to get on. He's a bustling player. There's so many players that find themselves looking at shots for enough time to work out what can go wrong. He's not one of those. I kind of like his style.
70.
And the point you made about players having had a match, the other thing to say, and it's only circumstances, that not only has Hearhcote played, he's, you know, even as recently as yesterday, when Ali Carter arrived, he had to just be locked in his room, and Hearhcote is wandering around.
Of course, all the players, indeed everyone involved in running and working on this tournament, had to have a COVID test on arrival and then wait for the results in their hotel room. Of course, the players are delighted just to be playing again, and clearly there was a point when this year's World Championship was in severe doubt, so it's just great that we have the qualifiers and the real thing, which of course starts next Friday. You can watch all of it live on Eurosport. Judd Trump beginning the defence of his title, bidding to become the first-time winner to successfully defend.
30.
Well, he got into the cue ball a little there and certainly didn't mean to hit the black. He would have been looking, I think, to finish the other side of those two reds by hitting nothing on the way through. Nice recovery, but the break is getting more difficult, and it was the same as earlier in the frame. He finds himself playing more and more difficult shots until something has to give. Still an encouraging start, though. Never an easy shot, that, you know,
No,
cutting it back
31.
at pace.
Handy lead, but there are still 83 on the table. 45 the advantage.
One.
He looks a bit straight on this black to do any real damage. I don't know whether he can screw directly into the reds here. It'll take a lot of power to get the reds open, though. That's a very good shot. Very good shot. If he hit the reds in the middle of them, I think the cue ball might have stuck there, but slightly glancing off them, that was beautifully played. A frame like this at the start of a match, one that you've not really been in, your opponent's had two chances. If Ali could steal the frame, then that would set him off on the right track.
No.
Carter had to qualify for the Crucible last year and did it with some aplomb. Only lost 9 frames in his 3 qualifying rounds. Of course, the format is somewhat different this year. Those players ranked just outside the top 16 only have to play 2 rounds, this being the first of them, of course, for Carter. Beat Jimmy White on his way to the Crucible, and then, of course, got to the quarterfinals where he lost to Gary Wilson, who's gone out today, as you may have been watching, at the hands of an inspired performance from Alex Ursenbacher.
Well, this red, not easy, because the pot is missable and the cue ball is just going into the other three reds here. I don't have any sort of a gap between them. Might have cost him the frame. And Hearhcote needs to make sure that is the case here, because he's made all the running in the frame and he has to finish it off.
One. Six. Seven. Twelve.
So that is enough for the frame, barring snookers, and Carter shouldn't get a chance to actually lay a snooker from here. There's a bit of a difference between winning matches on the outside tables and playing on the main
16.
table. Ashley Carty, as you can see, has picked up the first frame against Jimmy Robertson. Bit of a sloppy miss actually, 47 in it. I think I'd be surprised if Carter didn't play on. He should do, because he could still pinch this frame. That was a bad error. If the red goes in, it's frame over.
Yes, it's just 1 4-point snooker to tie if Carter can take blacks with the remaining 2 reds, so far from over.
One.
Yeah, that was a sloppy shot from Hearhcote. It really was, just to make sure that red goes in. I think we've all made that mistake, but you just don't need the, the chance of a late turnaround in a frame, especially the first frame. It sets a bad trend. And player of Carter's standard is not out of this frame yet. Get a good snooker here, then all of a sudden it's on his opponent.
Holly Carter.
That's not quite it.
This match will play either Wu Yiza or Alan McManus on Judgment Day. Carter and McManus obviously favourites at the outset to come through, but we've seen some upsets already this week. Carter needing 1 4-point snooker in order to have the chance of tying the frame as things stand.
quite a good shot, although even if he is snookered, I think it's very easy to hit. But alternatively, you can see the very edge of it. I think it's one of those, if he played off the left cushion, I don't see any way he would miss it. Does he want to risk hitting the slight edge of it? I'd be going off the left cushion here, to be on the safe side, rather than looking at the thinnest of edges. Either way, I think he'll be all right.
Foul.
Wow, that was a terrible mistake.
Carter, 4.
That was an absolute cast iron shot left cushion. No way he would have missed it, but he took the risk of hitting it directly when there's only a little bit to hit. I think that was a mistake. And it's a mistake which could have still cost him 35 in it, and Carter can tie.
Yes, this is one of those frames which, were Hearhcote to lose it, it could have side effects beyond just the loss of the first frame. It would be very damaging, potentially.
Yes, he's not sure to lose it by any means, but he's given Carter some interest now. That'll be a relief to him. So now I think he can just breathe easy and forget the odd mistake towards the end of this frame that he's made.
Frame conceded.
Yes, and Ali Carter has given him the nod. With the red disappearing, there was no realistic prospect of Carter getting the snookers he needed. So Louis Hearhcote just dodging a bullet there. It could have got awkward for him, with Carter having initially got the snooker. But it's Hearhcote who leads 1-0. So a great start for the underdog then, but a long way to go. It's the first to 6 for a place on Judgment Day. We'll have frame 2 after the break. Good start for Leicester's Louis Heathcote against the 2 times World Championship finalist Ali Carter. 41 years of age today. Happy birthday, Ali, but not the best of starts. Heathcote taking the opening frame. Carter having missed a red to the left corner when he was trying to get back into it. He did manage to get the snooker he needed in order to potentially tie the frame, but it wasn't to be. Heathcote potting the final red to end the argument. So 1-0 to him in their first meeting, but a long way to go. First to 6, of course, to go through to the final qualifying round here in Sheffield. Meanwhile, over on the Eurosport Player, a black ball finish in the opening frame of the match between Rob Milkins and the 6 times world finalist Jimmy White, and they're still playing on that black. In fact, as I speak, Milkins has potted it, so 1-0 to the Milkman, who's beaten Neil Robertson a couple of times at the Crucible. And that's a very handy fluke, that little edge off the black helping Heathcote out.
Yeah, a positive shot on the brown to make it count, and of course now he's finished top side of the blue. That's a very good shot. That means, I mean, if you wanted to put it anywhere, the cue ball, to get into the bunch, you'd put it exactly where it's landed. So a bit of pace, get into the bunch, get things started in frame 2. Oh, that's a great split. That is a very chunky connection with the bunch of reds. Didn't hold back there, and as I say, he's got that way about him, I think, as a player.
Meanwhile, Luca Brissell, who of course won the comeback tournament after lockdown, the Championship League at Milton Keynes. He's got the first frame on the board this evening.
12.
Yeah, I mentioned it last night. People are saying he's got an outside chance of the Crucible, but he hasn't won a match there yet. Which is that's something that's going to change, that's for sure. But he has had a few efforts without ever winning a match.
Well, what an opportunity this is for Heathcote to build on that opening frame. Joe O'Connor
15.
has taken the opener against Kurt Mafflin on table 5.
And he hit that one as well. Nicely done. There's a confidence in the way he strikes the ball, Heathcote.
$21. 22.
Good start for Alfie Burden as well, who's looking for points to retain his tour card against Liang Wenbo, another player whose form of late has been a shadow of what it was. Of course, Liang, the former English Open champion, won the inaugural event of the Home Nations on Eurosport, beating Judd Trump a few years back,
27.
but hasn't been producing that form of late.
Yes, and you may well remember, Philip, that in that event that Wenbo won, Alfie Burden made a 147 break, which was something he was very proud of. And he did say on the coach, because we were sitting by him, Philip, weren't we, on the way in, that he hopes it's not, we hope it's not really, but tonight could be his last ever match. He's not saying, he's not on the tour yet, and he's very unconvinced that he'll go to the Q School, so of course none of that might apply if he keeps winning here this week.
Yes, he's a fierce competitor, isn't he, Alfie, and he'll be giving it everything tonight. Should be a cracking match, and this could be as well. Carter clearly the favourite at the outset, but this is an encouraging start for Heathcote. He was a little concerned for a moment there.
54.
Yeah, he's striving to get top side of the blue, and of course on that occasion it was a little bit close to the middle pocket, the cue ball. It's been a difficult break. Black and pink have never been in play.
49.
And they always say that you can't win the frame without those balls being on their spots or in the middle of the table somewhere, and he's trying to prove that theory wrong. And he just made it. This time he is the wrong side of the blue, but with enough angle to go in and out of bulk without too many problems. And he's either going to go between the green and the brown, or between the brown and the yellow. Is he on it, the bottom red? Does the other red go? Well, I think the answer to both of them is yes. I think they both go. I think the one near the pocket is one he'd really like to play. He doesn't want to be playing the left-hand red into half a pocket. It just creeps through. Cue ball. This time I think he had no option but to play on the black. It would have been harder to play on something else. Now how confident is he? Is he going to be able to have to roll this in, or can he play it with a little bit of pace to make easier position on the next red? But then the pot becomes more awkward. Well played. No. Next piece of the jigsaw is to find a way of putting this and getting on a high value colour. Manners has won the opening frame.
Yeah, a couple more reds and this frame will be safe. But he's missed that one. Now then, chance for Carter to make a counter. 53 behind, but still plenty there. 75 to be precise.
Yeah, I just felt if that went in again, it would have been the frame, and he's just, anything you could say that he isn't doing is not quite finishing frames off, making all the running. He ended up winning the first frame, but he could have won it there and then, and there would have been none of this.
Well, this is an early test of Carter's mettle, and he certainly doesn't lack that. He's proved it time and time again, both on and off the table, that he's gutsy, determined. But he knows this would be a hammer blow for Hearhcote to lose this frame when it was looking like 2-0.
Seven. $15. $22. 23.
It's all a question of how he gets on that left-hand red, whether he plays him behind it or he's got the chance to bring it into play.
50. $31.
Well, the angle is good. He's always been a good rest player, Carter. If he did have to get him behind it, that would be okay, but he might just be trying to bring it out into open play here. bit unlucky. Didn't push it far enough up the table. I suppose he'd be a little annoyed he never hit it harder, but I suppose if he hits it any harder, the angle onto the red changes. The cue ball swings a bit higher.
Ali Carter,
That's a
38.
good shot though, if he's got the snooker, that is. It's important that he does get it. And it's probably touch and go as to whether he actually can get to this red.
So Carter shaves the lead to just 15, 35 left.
And he can certainly get through to it. Oh, what a shot. I mean, I thought Carter had played it well. I didn't know he could see that much, but that was a brilliant pot.
It's got to be one of the candidates for shot of the tournament. Fantastic.
And it could be the shot that wins in the frame, and that won't make Ali Carter feel any better. Now he's up against someone who can knock those in.
4.
He only needs the green.
6.
The margins are so fine, aren't they? Carter was probably, what, a couple of millimetres away from getting a snooker. It was just enough for Hearhcote to attempt the pot, and what a pot. A frame-winning pot for a 2-0 lead. What a start. He's needed a couple of visits to win the frames, but it doesn't matter. He's putting early pressure on the former two-time finalist and looking very confident in the process. And the quality of that frame-winning red from long range can only boost his confidence. Ali Carter knows he's in for a fight this evening on his birthday. Lewis Hearhcote has started outstandingly well and leads by 2 frames to 0. 6 is the target for a place in the final qualifying round here in Sheffield. Frame 3 is coming up after this short break. Pressure here from Louis Hearhcote, who's threatening to spoil the party. 2 terrific frames from the world number 87 from Leicester, and what a pot it was to clinch the second after an initial break of 53. That's an indication of the success that Carter has had, with very nearly 1.8 million in career earnings this season alone. 190,000, the lion's share of that coming from his Masters final appearance. 309 career centuries, 17 this season. He is still a force to be reckoned with for sure, but he's got his work cut out this evening against a player who looks fearless, seems to be embracing the occasion. Already, of course, has a win under his belt against Kishan Harani, who himself had come from 4 down with 5 to play in his first round match against Robin Hull, but Hearhcote was too strong for him. And he's made the perfect start this evening. He's playing fluently. He looks very much up for the task of trying to take out one of the world's best here. So it's down to Carter, who of course hasn't played a match before this evening, to respond now with a couple more frames to come before the interval. And 6 the target for a place in the all-important final hurdle before the Crucible Theatre.
Well, he has left a long red, and he's potted a very good red up into the green pocket. Not quite the same as this, but this would be more dangerous, I think, with other reds to the side of the bunch that are available. But he might... No, he's playing off the bunch. Can't blame him if that's what he thinks is right. I think he's an aggressive player, but I don't think he'll take on too many shots, too many. Like anything else, you just pot what you think you can pot, and when you don't think you can pot one, you play safe. That's what you should be doing. You have to feel obliged to go for more shots than you feel comfortable with. Some players have just like to get on with it, like to play their shots and play to their strengths. That is a terrific shot. That really is against the nap of the cloth. You've got to hit the middle of the cue ball. Just any trace of right-hand side that you might put on that, just from the other end, would go the opposite way with the cue ball. That was a brilliant shot, I tell you. That really was good.
Well, it was, wasn't it? Because he was glued to the cushion, which made cueing that much more difficult.
And so was that. I really like his style here. Just something about the way that he's going into this match. He knows he's not going to get it given to him. He's got to go out there and strive for this win. Playing someone like Ali Carter, you're not going to beat them unless you create your own chances. Carter is too clever a player for that. He's got to play the match of his life, and he looks up for it.
Was runner-up in the European Under-21 Championship back in 2015. He's a former 8-ball pool champion as well. Top break of 135, which he achieved in this year's German Masters at the Templedrum. But the way in which he's approached this match has been so impressive. He looks like a man who believes he can win.
13.
And that's half the battle. And the thing is that Carter hasn't done a great deal wrong. Yes, he missed a red in the first frame, which was tricky. You play what looked like a pretty respectable safety at the back end of the second frame, only for Hearhcote to fire in that long red to clinch it. And another tough red to get in for this break.
Yeah, very good. Very good, but one thing he didn't do in those first two frames was put the first chance away. You know, he got in, scored quite heavily, but towards the end of a frame, didn't quite convert. In the end, got there brilliantly in that last frame with a great long pot. So now he's just got to make sure he goes that next level. And let's just win the frames and kill them off early.
$28. 29.
Well, if he can win this frame, of course he's guaranteed an interval lead. Meanwhile, Matt Selt leads Alan Taylor, who's had a spellbinding week thus far, by 2 frames to 0. Is Taylor going to be brought back to earth this evening? Of course, he won the Challenge Tour playoff event on the eve of these qualifiers.
47.
And then knocked in a hatful of huge breaks at the start of the qualifying tournament, including the tournament high of 145. But it's Selt who's made the better start there, 2-0 up. Matt Selt, who of course won his maiden ranking title, the Indian Open.
He's already shook his head once. He doesn't like the cannon here very much. But he played it again positively. Cue ball did go through the bunch, but stopped by hitting that pink. He knew there was something about that he didn't like, but he didn't hold back.
$45.
That's another good shot. Average shot time 21 seconds, but I just think that he's going about his business in a very controlled but aggressive way. I mentioned that he's from Leicester, and of course we lost Willie Thorne recently. It's very sadly, and he was the first of the really top players from that part of the world. Mark Selby, of course, but they've got a lot of good tour players, the likes of Ben Williston, who was beaten today. Tom Ford is from there, Joe O'Connor, and Louis Heathcote. I'm not sure whether they all practice together, but I'm sure they have done. And you know, you do get that little areas where you do get good players coming from. In South Wales, in Neath, there are many good players as well. Pockets of it, you know, the UK, where you've got a little hotbed of snooker, and they all feed off each other by their success. It's always been the case.
Well, it bears repeating that Carter has done very little wrong so far this evening. It's not as though he's made a hatful of errors and let Heathcote in. It's been the quality of Leicester QS play that's got him into this position where he's pretty close to taking a 3-0 lead.
That was a good shot as well, because
57.
twice across the table he bounced it off the second cushion and out. He knew the bottom red went. Same thing has happened though as in the previous frames.
He's got
He
56.
makes a half century and he brings Carter back to the table with the frame still live, and that is his only thing I can say that he's done wrong so far tonight.
Yes, 53 in the second frame. 57 this time, but plenty there for Carter. But he's under pressure now, Carter, because he's had very few shots so far this evening. Coming into this match a little cold in any case, having obviously not played a match, as Neil mentioned, having to isolate after his COVID test. So he's just not had any sort of opportunity so far to strike up a rhythm, get a feel for the table.
1.
I like the way he controlled the cue ball on that shot. And this time he really must put this frame to bed.
While Jimmy White has levelled up against Rob Milkins on the Eurosport player, 1 apiece. Likewise, Jimmy Robertson against Ashley Carty.
8.
Fergal O'Brien has levelled with Luca Brissell. If Luca is to come through this evening, and many people rate his chances of perhaps making a noise at the Crucible this year, assuming he qualifies, he's going to know he's been in a match with Fergal, whatever happens, 1 each there. And that's a terrific pot from Heathcote.
Yeah, very nice shot. Very nice. And this is frame ball now.
Well, this is the dream start, isn't it, for the underdog? Yes, he's not killed the frames off in 1 visit, but
16.
nevertheless, he's been very impressive. He looks confident, assured. He looks like a man who's got a good win under his belt.
17.
And certainly not fazed by reputation, that's clear. Up against one of the better players of the last 20 years or so, but just playing his own game, and that's the key. Easier said than done. But just concentrating on what he's doing, not worrying about what Carter might do, and so far he's been able to freeze Carter out. And the next frame is a big one for the captain. 4-0 down, even for a player of his calibre, that's going to take a lot of retrieving
30.
in a race to 6.
31.
Yeah, well, he's all over him like a rash here, isn't he, Heathcote? He's made all the early running in frames. Carter, with just the odd chance to pick up the pieces, hasn't done it. And right now, he's going to have to dig very deep, because Louis Heathcote is
38.
He's playing some really nice stuff.
39.
He's cueing well. He's playing with authority. He's striking the ball with that little bit of joy that you need. It just looks like he's out there thoroughly enjoying it. He's going at 95% almost on pot success. And all the important shots have gone in. 1 or 2 errors, but only 1 or 2.
45.
Nothing more.
Louis Heathcote, 45.
Very, very impressive stuff from the Leicester man. And Ali Carter has got an awful lot of thinking to do here in Sheffield. His hopes of qualifying for the 2nd year running here at the Crucible looking a little precarious right now, with Heathcote queuing so well and already halfway to a place in the final qualifying round here. He leads Ali Carter by 3 frames to 0. Well, I guess the only concern, if that's the right word for Louis Heathcote so far, as we look at some of his highlights, and what a pot that was to effectively win the 2nd frame. Fabulous pot after Carter had played a perfectly respectable safety, which was nearly a snooker. Here's another one from tight to the top rail, just stroked it in the length of the table, is that he gets ahead of himself and starts to think about the prospect of one more match to reach the Crucible Theatre, because he's still got a world-class player to get past. And he's still got plenty of work to do to get over the line. But what a start he's made here. Tremendously confident stuff.
3 and 4.
Couple of half-century breaks and a 3-0 lead. And Carter must feel as though he's not really started the match yet. He's had very few shots.
Well, he's been caught napping, hasn't he? He's been certainly cold anyway. I say we can't really honestly say he's done a great deal wrong. He missed a red in the right middle in that last frame when he was 57-0 down and already under it by then. That's another good shot.
One.
He's got a good long game, hasn't he, as we've highlighted, and that was another one for the collection, wasn't it? He's walked into one here, Carter, isn't he? And he knows it on his birthday.
And that's the cruelty of snooker, isn't it? It doesn't matter how good you are, your opponent's at the table. You're powerless.
Six.
We have one of the best matches of the tournament so far this afternoon. Last year's World Championship semi-finalist Gary Wilson played Switzerland's Alex Hersenbacher. We'll be bringing you some highlights of that match during the mid-session interval, which of course is coming after this frame.
Yeah, he played well, but he didn't play any better than this. This was another good red to start things, and Carter knows his safety. He's going to have to be very, very good.
15.
He's got to get that cue ball underneath the vault cushion, and no one likes it there. At the moment, Hearhcote with his hand on the table is just knocking everything in. This is very impressive. And it's good to see a new face, a fresh face
22.
to many people's screens. Not everyone will have seen him play. I've watched him but a little bit on the tour. I have made the effort to watch him play a couple of matches, and I've seen some good things. This is the best, though.
23.
It all comes together in the end if you are good enough and you're dedicated enough, and of course you're hungry as a player. Wow, that's a fantastic split. That is real aggression. That's a wonderful shot, honestly, it really was.
Well, you don't play a shot like that unless you're oozing confidence, and Hearhcote, after the start he's made, clearly is. That was a tremendous shot. That's all about going for the jugular while you're on top.
Just hope he doesn't get a little bit, the adrenaline doesn't start to pump, because he has played that well, and he just needs to now go on and convert it. He'll only hurt Ali Carter if he goes on and wins a frame from it. But right now, everything is happening, isn't it, here? He's pulling out all the shots.
Yeah, the only good news for Carter right now is that there is a 15-minute break coming up, and he needs it badly, if only to see Heathcote's rhythm interrupted.
37.
Because he's on a serious roll here.
38.
Yeah, this is the best of the lot, actually, this frame. But now, the same things apply. You'll be aware that he didn't kill off frames. That's the only criticism. And he needs to kill this one off. Playing a top player here. A man who nearly won the Masters at the start of the year, don't forget, losing in the final to Stuart Bingham. So he's not playing somebody that is anything but as good as you're going to see here this week in the calibre of player in Carter.
Who beat, remember, Selby, Higgins and Murphy to get to that final. And it was only an inspired finale from his fellow Essex Qer Stuart Bingham that denied him a first Masters title, but this evening he's just not had a look in, really.
50.
Played that well, didn't overhit it.
51.
Well, this is a joy to watch as a neutral. We don't mind who wins, but I'm certainly inspired by watching this standard of play.
And he is flying around the table, isn't he? Mentioned at the start of the match, he's 9th quickest this season. They're playing with so much confidence, as was evidenced with that tremendous split of the pack of reds, which has set up this frame-winning opportunity, which he's very close now to clinching. This could be a very big break. Just slips in off the jaw, but...
Well, he stayed down on it. He must have been a little concerned, but I thought it was a sensible shot to play on the pink.
Well, that's domination, isn't it? Almost outscoring Carter 5-1 at the moment. What a fabulous break this has been. That's frame ball that's come and gone. And what odds would you have got on Ali Carter trailing Louis Heathcote 4-0 at the interval? Well, barring something extraordinary, that's going to be the score. And you'd have to say thoroughly merited.
72.
He's made 6 centuries this season. Every chance of another one here, the way he's going. Spoke too soon. But he won't care too much because that is a frame-winning kill, barring a lot of snookers for Ali Carter. Only 59 left. So he needs 4 of them. And probably just pleased to come to the table. He's not been there many times so far this evening.
1.
But what a job he's got to turn this frame round.
Well, I think the only thing that's giving him the incentive to stay on here and carry on is that red below the black. But if he's taking lower value colours with these reds, then he's going to need more snookers if it ever comes to that.
9.
Well, this has got to go in. Otherwise, I think Carter will be off to regroup.
He's overhit it, I think. He knows it. It's going to have to go in and then cue ball all around the angles because there is an outside chance, and that's all it really is here. Getting a snooker on the last red, but he wanted to be straight on the black, really. He didn't need to be going all around the houses here. Needs a cue ball at this end of the table to lay the snooker.
Still needs 4 4-point snookers in order to turn this frame around. Badly needs to get one here to get the ball rolling.
Yes, and it's not a big, not so, you feel it's not such a big deal as before, but he hasn't, you know, again, he could have potted one more ball and none of this would have happened if he'd potted that black. He wouldn't have been in a position where he's now chasing, getting out of snookers. But I don't think it's going to be a problem with 48 on one red. I've seen frames won like this, but it doesn't happen very often. I saw a stat actually that only twice this week had anyone won frames needing snookers. Of all the frames that have been played, it happened twice. I don't know if it happened again today, but that was overnight, that stat I saw. It's got him in one, I think. Maybe a little edge sticking out. We've been here before, where his coat was in a position to hit the edge of a ball in, I think, frame 1, and he hit something on the way through. Not this time.
Yes, that's really been the only moment of concern for Heathcote this evening, that very first frame when Carter did get a snooker which would have enabled him to potentially tie the frame and force a respot, only for Heathcote to eventually snick the last red into the left centre pocket. Apart from that, he has looked in complete control from the get-go. Played some superb snooker.
Yeah, I think he's only playing on because he knows he has to. He has to see if he can just pull something out of the wreckage here in this frame. He's been on the wrong end. There's a bit of a hammering so far, hasn't he? Well, he seems to have popped these. If he can see enough, these have been going in.
Meanwhile, Matt Selt has increased his lead to 3-0 over Alan Taylor, who of course has a brand new 2-year tour card after his success in the playoffs before this tournament started.
The other thing about Alan Taylor, of course, he made that 145 break, and that break counts for the whole tournament, £15,000. And I'm not saying it'll win, but someone's going to have to make, well, obviously 146, but the likelihood is a 147 is going to be what beats it, and we've not had one of those at the Crucible for 8 years, so Alan Taylor's in line for a big payday there.
Yes. 147's a lot more commonplace these days than once they were, but still pretty uncommon at the Crucible Theatre. Meanwhile, Heathcote buries the final red, and with it this fourth frame, and this has been a dream mini session for him. Ali Carter hasn't done a lot wrong. He's just been comprehensively outplayed. And Carter says, yeah, I've had enough of that, and I'm hoping that in the 15-minute hiatus that Louis Heathcote will lose his way, because so far he's been quite outstanding and thoroughly deserves his 4-0 lead. A couple of 50-plus breaks, but just as impressively has been the way he's gone about it. Very aggressive, very positive, and he's just 2 frames away with a 4-0 lead. For him. Jimmy White finding himself 3-1 down to Rob Milkins. Jimmy hasn't been at the Crucible for 14 years, and he's got work to do to get back in that one after the break. Ashley Carty leads Jimmy Robertson, the former European Masters champion, 2-1. Matt Selt is all over Alan Taylor, who's had an outstanding week, like a rash at the moment. Taylor being brought back down to earth by the reigning Indian Open champion. It's 2 apiece between Mafflin and O'Connor. Fergal O'Brien, who's looking to stay on the tour, 2-1 up at the moment against Luca Brissell, the Championship League winner from last month. It's all square between Liang Wenbo and Alfie Burden, who's threatened retirement at the end of this tournament if he doesn't progress. And Alan McManus, 2-1 to the good against Wu Yizhe, and whoever wins that match will play either Carter or Heathcote. And right now, it looks like being that man in your picture, the world number 87 from Leicester, who has been quite outstanding. It's not as though Carter's had an off day and has missed lots of balls and left his opponent in. It's been the quality of Heathcote snooker which has just kept Carter off the table. And I'm sure he would have been more than happy to stay out there without that 15-minute hiatus. So the question is, will that have interrupted his rhythm? Will it bring about a change in this match? You've got to think realistically Carter has to win this frame, and not the best break-off from Heathcote. An early chance for the captain. But he's had so few shots this evening. He must be feeling ice cold out there. Of course, he would have arrived at the hotel, which is just a 10-minute coach ride away from here at the English Institute of Sport yesterday. Would have had his COVID test on arrival, then having to quarantine in his room until he got his result earlier today. Wouldn't have had all that much time, I'm guessing, to get on the practice table. And there are 4 tables here at this venue. There are tables back at the hotel as well. But Heathcote looks like a player who's been playing for a couple of weeks and playing very well at that. But there's still the issue as he gets closer to the winning line, and he's only 2 frames away, of whether pressure could come to bear, whether he'll begin to think about victory, about beating one of the best players that we've seen in the last couple of decades, and whether that could affect his game. We shall see. It's going to be fascinating to see how he goes in the second half of this match.
7.
Yeah, I mean, it's not what he's looking for to come back after the mid-session interval. I did actually just nip out and I saw him. He was having a laugh and a joke with Alfie Burden. It's 2-2 in his match. I suppose much else you can do, really. Now, as he finished on that red, that is, is borderline, I would say. And Looks like he thinks he can get through to it. Yeah, just, I think. Just. It's one of those, you almost want to be on it tight because you've got a better chance of getting through, potting it and getting through, but he may feel that there's another shot that's more suitable for him. No, he may not. He may feel that it's a risky shot. It's difficult balance for him really because, you've got to keep attacking because that's how he got 4-0 up, but of course you don't want to go too far. But it's not a question of waiting for your opponent to make mistakes. That's not how he got the lead. If he doesn't think he's on the red, he's right not to go for it, I suppose. It's as simple as that.
Hearhcote.
I mean, it does sound like the biggest cliche in the world to say the interval can change matches, but it seems to be a fact as well. Because so often, there's just the momentum in the match swings, the mindset changes. And a lot of this game is played between the ears. But he has been very impressive so far, and that's all we can really say.
Another little shake of the head from Carter, concerned about leaving that red over the corner.
Well, yeah, the only thing is, in potting the red, I'm not sure how it can get on the colour. So it's one of those, you're almost on a hiding to nothing playing this red, because I don't see how he can get it out onto a colour at all, unless he somehow played it with a tremendous amount of power. Then, of course, the pot comes into some doubt. It's not a nice shot, this. His long pot success, 8 from 9. He might play the other red, the one that's further from the pocket. And there you have it, just a little bit of tension on that. A lot of balls moved there. Actually, I mentioned earlier on that only twice at any one frame leading a snooker. The McManus match, of course he led 2-0, but he was pegged back to 2-1, and there was an example of another frame where snooker was got.
And we have had a couple of big comebacks this week. Kishan Hirani, who Hearhcote beat in the second qualifying round, was 4 down with 5 to play against Robin Hull. And of course we saw Peter Lyons lose from the cusp of victory against Lu Hong Hao, having been 5-1 up and had chances for a 6-1 win. So it's not all over for Carter, but he's got to find something here and now in this frame.
He played a good opening red there. Yeah, just on that match, Alan McManus was 2-0 up on Wu Yiza, the Chinese player who's 16. He got the snookers. I mean, how do you get a snooker against McManus, which he misses? That's the strangest thing. He's not missed one for about 25 years. But he has done there, obviously. Angles. And now it looks like 2-2 there. So it's a turnaround. That was a good shot, actually, because had that stayed out, then his opponent could have been away again. That was a good shot from Carter.
20.
Look, I mean, you never know what's going to happen at snooker, but I would be surprised if this match had gone 6-0, 6-1 in favour of Hearhcote. It still might, but you just feel that somewhere along the lines he's going to get some kind of a foothold into the match. But of course, he'd have to win this frame for anything like that to start.
And if he does, it will then come down to how Hearhcote responds to that. I'm sure he'll be expecting a backlash from Carter. He knows how good he is.
Well, he must have played on the plant, and that's all he's got. The two reds have got a bit of distance between them. which means you can miss these. I'd expect him to get it.
29.
That's okay.
First time he's been able to put anything of any substance together. He was just frozen out really in that quartet of frames before the interval. 1 or 2 half chances, but not much more than that. And I guess that would have been of some consolation to Carter. It wasn't as though he was leaving chances left, right and centre and missing easy balls. It was much more to do with his opponent, and that's probably easier to take. But he won't find that one easy to take. He will be absolutely incandescent about that one.
46.
Just when he was looking to build something substantial, straightforward red is jawed. A rueful smile from the captain. So just a 26-point lead. It looked like being a good deal more than that. No real reason to miss that one. He can't believe it. But Hearhcote has not played that well.
No, he tried to swing it round, but hit the jaw of the second. Top of the pocket there. It was yeah, he's just slightly lost his way a little. Only a little bit. Now, this is a difficult one. He's trying to force things here. If this goes in, he could be in business, but the pot is a missable one. Now, desperately would love to be on this red to the middle.
8. Nine.
And this could be the match here, you know. Let's say at 5-0. I'm not really thinking Carter's going to win it. I think it would be too much, especially in the context of this particular frame. He's got to do it still, of course he has. But there's a chance here that he could win the frame, and then Carter would have an absolute mountain to climb at 5-0, first to 6. I don't think that lead's going to get turned around, or it's very rare to see a lead like that turned around. So let's see how this progresses, this break.
Thank you. 15. It's not on its good. $60. $21.
Well, he's finished topside now. This could be a little nudge into the 2 reds, which could win him the frame. Well, he's played it nicely, hasn't he? I think he played it in a calculated way. The pace of it, he was never going to push the ready hit safe. He was going to leave it in the middle of the table. You'll need all the reds, remaining reds though.
28.
Just a bit further away from the black than he would like. Just a confirmation that Madison, we were 2-2 now. McManus could have been 3-0 up. He was 2-0 up, and his opponent needed a snooker, as I mentioned.
And the winner of that, remember, plays the winner of this for a place at the Crucible.
Yeah, he tensed on that. I think the shot before wasn't a great one, you know. He was a bit further away from the black than he should have been. Well, as we saw, we were in perfect line there, and not only did he not get it, I don't like the speed he played it at, really, because I think it would only just reached. And he's not covered it. I think he played to get cover behind the yellow and the other red, but it was a little bit weak in pace.
1.
it's one of those, if you're going to play that, you can't overscrew it. You know, you've got to give everything to get that cue ball out into the centre of the table.
Not the birthday that Ali had in mind at the moment. But if he can win this frame and keep Heathcote on 4, he can still definitely get back into this match. The next few minutes are going to be pivotal to the way the rest of this evening unfolds.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You know, a 4-0, it shouldn't be all that tense, really, but I think for Heathcote it is a little bit. He knows he's up against a great battler, a terrific player, twice a finalist at the Crucible. Someone who's not accustomed to be missing out on it. Yeah, I mean, the Snooker Almanac has just confirmed what I thought, that he hasn't missed out at all since he first played there, Carter. 2003. And of course that even includes when he was poorly. There's been more than one occasion, but he's had 2 bouts of cancer, but he still managed to appear at the Crucible in those years. And that would hurt him to miss out. 17 consecutive years he's played there. So it's a bit of a culture shock to miss. I know this year is different, the timings and all of that. But should he miss out, it would hurt him.
I think that fabulous record is testament to the resilience, the guts that Carter possesses. He's had to show a lot of that and getting himself back to good health. And that is a very sweet pot. He will give it absolutely everything, you can be sure of that, to get back into this match.
Well, the red, I suspect, pretty sure it must go past the yellow into the top left pocket. He doesn't have to plough it in there, but he might think about it.
Green ball.
He doesn't want left-hand side on this. This has got a motor, this cue ball.
Four.
Yeah, he's okay, he's gone far enough. I think for a second he was concerned blue could get in the way of the red. Big shot, this next one.
Five.
Very nice, very cool.
Nine.
Well, the easy misread could have been calamitous, but Carter showing some trademark metal here. And if he can mop up these colours and get his first frame, it might just plant a seed of doubt in Heathcote's mind. He only needs brown and blue. And he's taken these nicely. Got him with a superbly struck red.
23.
He has tremendous match play experience. He's a proven winner. And he's going to take some beating, even from 4-1 down. He's just here to show Louis Heathcote that he's not done by a long chalk. Still got a lot of work to do to get back into it. But that was surely a must-win frame for Ali Carter. And he has managed to stop the rot. So what will that do to Louis Heathcote's state of mind? He's still got a handsome lead, but he still needs 2. Carter needs 5. Carter trails 4-1. Ali Carter is on the comeback trail. A key 5th frame has gone his way after he was completely outplayed before the interval by Louis Heathcote of Leicester. But Carter produced a cool clearance under pressure to get a foothold here. 4-1. They've never played before. And of course, the prize is considerable, leaving aside the £5,000. Which would mean 15,000 for Heathcote. Serious money when you're ranked at 87 in the world. It's the chance, of course, to get to the Crucible. Carter, very familiar with snooker's most iconic venue. Neil's already pointed out his magnificent record there down the years. He's never been away since the early noughties, but under pressure to achieve that again.
Yep, as I said, every year since 2003, albeit most of those years he would have been a seeded player, so he wouldn't have to have gone through this, but more recently he has had to. Because I was just looking out the year that he beat O'Sullivan a couple of seasons back, then the shoulder barge thing that happened on that left table. He was a seeded player that year, having beaten Graham Dott in the previous round. But last year, as Philip pointed out earlier, he got through qualifying, not for the first time.
Yeah, just 9 frames lost in the 3 matches he had to play last year. Of course, this year it's only 2, but he's got to win this one first. And he did play exceptionally well that year that he beat O'Sullivan. Of course, he had a miserable record against O'Sullivan going into that match. Never beaten him. But he certainly deserved to beat him that day. It was over 25 frames, of course. Remember, he produced a brilliant clearance from a long way behind in the final session with the balls far from ideally placed, which really was the pivotal moment when O'Sullivan was poised to close to just 1 frame behind.
Well, Heathcote having a look at the red to the left centre here. Tempting, but not easy. I think the right-hand one of the two might be the better option to that middle pocket. Seen it all before, haven't we? The sort of power shift in the match. 4-1 is a great lead, and he should be pleased with it. For the moment, he's just been stopped in his tracks.
And how often have we seen that mid-session interval bring about a serious reversal of fortunes?
1.
Heathcote was on an absolute roll and would love to have stayed out there. Carter was very much looking forward to the break, just to try and regroup mentally and also see his opponent interrupted in that flow that he had. And so far, it has proved significant. Carter fighting back. But with not much wiggle room, he knows he's got to be very focused from here on in. Hasn't got much margin for error at 4-1 down in a race to 6. made the finals of the World Grand Prix last season where he lost to Trump. In fact, Carter normally only loses to the very best. Quite often loses to players who go on to win the respective tournament. Of course, he lost to Mark Williams after he beat O'Sullivan. Williams going on to win his third world title. Just edged out by Bingham in the Masters final, so it's pretty rare for Carter to lose to a player that he's expected to beat, certainly in recent times.
He's gone into them and almost zipped straight back out of the Reds again.
16.
Surely he's on one. The bottom one perhaps into the left middle, but he would be hoping for something easier than this. Oh, he knew straight away he'd missed it.
Ali Carter 16.
Or did he get a kick there? It sounded a bit clunky, and on that replay, it didn't look like the cleanest of contacts.
Yep.
Well, that's some scoreline when you consider the way Alan Taylor's been playing this week, but Matt Sell all over him and within a frame already of victory. But there's no doubt that Hearhcote is not showing quite the composure at the moment that he did before the interval, and he spread them far and wide there.
He's overhitting now. He hit that much too hard. The Reds went flying all around the table. They were going in. He almost couldn't keep up with them. They all seemed to be going towards pockets. None of them went in though.
Fine. Three. 4.
Oh, he's got to start playing as well as his opponent was playing before the interval here, Carter. Just getting a bit of fluency into his game. It could get very interesting if he was to win this frame.
Liang Wenbo, former English Open champion, has just edged in front of Alfie Burden 3-2. Luca Brissell's in a spot of bother against Fergal O'Brien, who of course was engaged in that extraordinary qualifying frame for the Crucible a couple of seasons back against Dave Gilbert. It lasted well over 2 hours. He's 3-1 up against Brissell, who won the Championship League on table 6. Jimmy White looking to close the gap on Rob Milkins in frame 5. Milkins leading 3-1 at the interval, and they've gone down to another black ball finish in the 5th frame. Milkins won the opener on the black, so that is a big moment in that match. Difference between 4-1 and 3-2. Definitely signs now, though, that Carter's beginning to get his teeth into this match. Heathcote's level has dropped. The And there could still be a long way to go in this one.
$26.
We'll bring you the climax of that fifth frame I've just referenced between Milkins and White at the end of this frame over on the Eurosport player on table 2. I can tell you it was a fairly dramatic end of the frame.
A little cannon there, and I think it's worked out quite well. He'd end up being on the red-headed cannon, which probably wasn't the plan, but anyway.
$34.
It's going to be an intriguing match, this, I think. Carter looking stronger, consummate match player. Inexperienced opponent who's been slightly derailed from what he's playing like. But still, even if this frame goes the way of Carter, like as it appears it might, still has a 2-frame lead.
Okay.
So things are sort of warming up quite nicely in this match, aren't they? Not there yet anyway, it's not quite at 4-2, but Carter gives the impression that he could finish the frame off here.
Yes, knowing Carter as we do, he was never going to give it to Heathcote. He was going to make him earn it. He's a feisty character, but he's a fighter. He doesn't give in.
$48.
Just this red then. Only 59 left, so it looks like back-to-back frames for Carter, exactly what was required after a very tough opening to this match. And it was hard to gauge how Ali was playing because he really didn't get too many opportunities to show us before the interval. It was all about the quality of Heathcote's play, but he's beginning to show us now. Nice little clearance to win frame 5. And after Heathcote missed from long range and scattered them, he's punished him here.
$62.
Just may push the other bit out into play in pulling this one. A beautiful shot. All the shots are coming now, and it is in the nick of time because, as we were saying, I think Heathcote gets to 5 frames, 5-0 or 5-1, then hard yards to get back into it. Still is, but still, while your opponent requires a couple, there's always that little bit of small margin for error, but it's only small.
$71. $78. Ali Carter, 78.
The red doesn't matter. That'll do very nicely for the birthday boy. Ali Carter very much back in business here with that break of 78 to go with frame 5. And Lewis Heathcote, who was looking very comfortable at the interval, but has had his rhythm interrupted, has seen his 4-frame advantage reduced to just 2. And we've now got a match on our hands here in Sheffield. All to play for. Heathcote leading Carter 4 frames to 2. He won the first frame of this match on the black, took a 3-1 interval lead. So here's Jimmy White. Now keep your eyes on both the yellow pocket here and the left corner. White going for the double, brilliantly executed, but look at the white. Absolute calamity for Jimmy.
Goodness me, that is unlucky, isn't it? I mean, he's played the double, he's played the kibble at the other end of the table. That is unlucky, I have to say, and the difference between 3-2 and 4-1, we all know all of that stuff, but it hurts more when it's, you know, you pot the black and going off. It really does knock the stuffing out of you at times as a player. Ali Carter, though, now senses that there's something for him to work on, I think, from 4-0 when he was totally outplayed. There's no getting away from it. There's Leo Scully just waiting for and Hearhcote to come back in, Louis Hearhcote, but the match has become quite intriguing now, hasn't it? It's taken a different twist. I mean, you know, you go back to, and obviously the players haven't got guests here, so there's no way that Louis Hearhcote can speak to anyone, but, you know, if someone said to him you'd be 4-2 up against Ali Carter pre-match, of course you'd take it, wouldn't you? But at 4-0 you might not, and that's where the mind games start to come in. Carter has got things going for him, but the scoreboard still says it's very much against him. But as long as he can stop Hearhcote winning the next frame, I think this is another big frame. To get to 4-3, all of a sudden he really is in it. If it was to go 5-2, then Hearhcote really has almost salvaged quite a lot from that at 4-0. To go 5-2, I think he'd have almost settled for that at the mid-session interval. So this next frame, I think, counts for pretty much a lot in this match.
Yeah, it's really intriguing now, isn't it, as you say, and I think all eyes on Hearhcote, because there's no doubt that his game has tailed off since the interval. He barely put a foot wrong in the first 4 frames. There's just been signs that he's beginning to feel it a bit, and with Carter now coming back at him, it'll be fascinating to see how he now responds. He's still in a strong position, 4-2 up, but Carter knows how to win matches like this. He's done it countless times before, and he's done it many times in the World Championship.
I think Carter would have been very aware after those first four frames that his safety has got to be strong against Hearhcote. He knocked in a lot of long balls, but since the interval, he's hit 1 or 2 a bit too hard. I think he's an adrenaline player, Hearhcote. When, you know, things are going well, he really gets himself psyched, and, you know, he played shots with a lot of aggression, which is what you need. He's got to find that aggression, I think, again.
Well, Alan Taylor has avoided a whitewash anyway against Matt Selt, but still staring down the barrel at 5-1 down to the Indian Open champion. Joe O'Connor 3-2 up on Kurt Mafflin, who's in the balls in the 6th frame. Still 3-1 Fergal O'Brien against Luca Brissell. They've resumed after their interval, early stages of frame 5. Liang Wenbo 3-2 up and 20 points up on Alfie Burden in the 6th frame. And dead level between Alan McManus and Wu Yuzhe of China. McManus had led 2-0, and remember, whoever wins that match will play the winner of this one on one of the 2 judgment days to determine who goes to the Crucible.
That's not a very good shot from Carter. He caught the red too thick.
Well, Hearhcote stroked in some quite outstanding long pots in the first 4 frames, including an absolute stunner to win the second. Do with one here. That was a good deal easier than the one he potted in frame 2, but just needs to restore a bit of equilibrium to his game in this frame. He's seen Carter come back at him, but he has to remind himself that he's still very nicely placed. This is a chance to build a lead in the 7th frame.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how he goes about this, whether he can find that form. Because I'd have fancied him to make 50 or 60 at least on his form of before the mid-session interval. this is really where the game is important. It's all right doing it when the pressure's not quite on you, but in match play there are moments when things get a little bit sticky, and then you have to find your best. And we're going to find out more about him as a player here. I've been very impressed by what I've seen tonight. Now he's got to turn a good performance into a winning one.
12.
I think it's another indicator of the strength and depth in the game these days that someone ranked 87 can play to this level against one of the game's class acts. Just the one last 32 appearance this season. Remember, it's his debut season.
Yes, he's got a card, hasn't he, for next year? He's got a 2-year card, of which he's halfway through.
But if he could make something sizable here, well, that would tell us a bit more about his character. Having had to sit out the last couple of frames to much improved Ali Carter. If he can hit back here, the confidence he showed before the interval will be restored, but missing a straight pink will not do anything for his confidence. He wasn't missing those before the interval.
Yes, absolutely. It's looking a little bit different now, this match, isn't it? Oh, well, that'll help Heathcote, because Carter's hit the wrong red. He's hit a red on the way through to the pocket. It doesn't hurt you so much when you miss one, and as Heathcote did, and then your opponent straight away misses again. It kind of takes away the disappointment of your shot. You can just crack on with the game. It's when you sit there and then wait for your next chance and you're in your chair a long time, that's when all the negative thoughts can come in. I think the point is Heathcote, as we can see, is a rhythm player. Now he plays shots fairly quickly. In this match he's operating at just 20 seconds a shot. And at the moment Carter's just taken him out of his rhythm a little bit for the first time.
Never ideal when one of the colours covers one of the corner pockets. Things are prone to get scrappy in those circumstances, with the reds gravitating towards said colour and the pocket. And that's not going to help in that regard.
Well, I wonder if, don't think it can get to that red to the right of the pink. It would be a thin pot, I will go, but I don't think Carter's left a chance at it. His cue ball is heading up in behind the yellow here. Well, he's just finished to the side of it, as you can see. Leo Scully, have a look. He won't be called touching ball, but because there's no consequence of that, but he might want to see if it's touching, if he ever had to have the balls put back. Now, are those two reds a plant? Not far off, are they? How can Heathcote get to them, though? That's the question. Congested corner of the table, isn't it? Goodness me.
Going to take a look at that possible plant.
Well, I think if the two reds are in line, he could play the cannon onto them from the two reds in the middle of the table, but even that doesn't look very easy. Wow, this is a dangerous shot to play. Oh, what a shot. What a shot that is. That was not an easy plant. That's a great shot. Deserves everything he gets good from that.
He had to be super accurate there, didn't he? It could easily have gone wrong. But how cleanly did he cue this?
It's a good shot. It really was. Hard shot to play that. I mean, he's still got the problem of the congestion in that corner of the table. If he could have potted the pink, I think he would have done. But I don't think the pink would get the cue ball out of there. If the red to the right of the two goes, he's not so bad. The two near the pocket, that is. Now, can he pot it and just free the pink with the other red? Yeah, great shot. Now, this is very, very good stuff. Bit of a shot maker, isn't he? Doesn't wait for something easy to come along. He's happy to take the chances because it won't always work.
And if he can win this frame, he's still very much in the driving seat. And Carter will be under extreme pressure because the margin for error for the 2 times world finalist will be greatly reduced. Still a long way to go, but handy early lead.
40.
And that superb plant that he played will have given him a bit of confidence that may have just been lost with a few errors since the interval. It's just a reminder of how well he's cueing. That was tremendous. It really was great cueing.
Yeah, it had to be so accurate, didn't he? Hit that red on the edge like that of the two that made the plant.
$21.
It's looking a bit grim for fans of the whirlwind on the Eurosport player. Rob Milkins having won that dramatic 5th frame for his second black ball steal after Jimmy White went in off on the final black, having potted it with a superb double. Has now added the 6th frame as well. So 5-1 Milkins.
27.
Well, he's just a little awkward. I think he can get to the red without queuing over the yellow, but it was a touch and go for a while.
And the winner of that Milkins-White match will play the Jimmy Robertson or Ashley Carty, with Carty now 3-2 up on the former European Masters champ.
28.
Liang Wenbo has extended his lead over Alfie Burden to 4-2. Alan McManus now 3-2 up on Wu Yiza. Winner of that to play the winner of this on Judgment Day. Joe O'Connor 3-2 up on Kurt Mafflin. Matt Selt still leading Alan Taylor 5-1.
Yeah.
And Louis Heathcote just edging his way towards a 5-2 lead and being 3 up with 4 to play.
Yeah, this is the kind of frame you just need to win. It doesn't matter how you win it, albeit there was that tremendous start to this break, as we know. Oh dear. What can he get to? Can he get to the brown here? That was an error.
There is still 75 on the table.
Play ball.
Well, he could do with getting a colour safe here. Not so easy to do. High value colour on the cushion would be handy. It would make that 47 points a little bigger. I think that's a good shot to push the black, or to try and push the black safe, but he hasn't quite made it.
Yeah, very handy lead, but by no means decisive. Colours are still out in the open for Carter. If he can get in, every chance he could make a telling counter.
Well, he's going to try to keep the ball safe here. He won't want to shift any of those safe reds that are on the bottom cushion. Problem is he's snookered on the red that's in open play. That's probably a good shot. Keep things as tight as you can.
Yeah, Heathcote's goal here will be to make the frame as messy as he can, to make Carter's task of getting back into it as hard as possible. He'd love a couple of colours on cushions.
Well, this will certainly open things up. What a shot. What a shot that is, goodness me. Okay, there's always a little bit of luck involved in that. He played it well, and now all of a sudden there's 3 or 4 reds in play. In fact, the frame looks totally different. A lot of reds have been shifted from the cushion.
Well, this frame would hurt Heathcote more than the previous two were he to lose it, because having built a very handy lead with the balls looking a bit awkward, he'd have had high hopes of going 3 clear again. But if Carter can clear up here, well, that really would be a test of his character. But there's plenty of pressure on Carter to do that. That said, you'd probably rather be in his shoes right now, even though he's behind, than Heathcote's in this frame. Oh, goodness. He's overcut the red. Would you believe it? Well, that's what pressure can do. He can't believe it.
Yeah, decelerated slightly. He didn't get through the ball with the right cue speed. And you tend to overcut them when that happens.
What a let-off that is for the Leicester cueist, and Carter is agonising. He'd have backed himself to clear up there. He's done it many times before.
Well, it felt a very big moment, didn't it? And Heathcote was out of his chair as quickly as you ever see anyone get out of their chair there, with the chances come from nowhere. You know, he's a bustling player, likes to get on with it. And that could have been just a real... Ooh! Wow.
Heathcote won.
Wow. What a time for a miscue. Goodness me, that is something different.
Well, are we going to look back on that moment as being pivotal at the end of the evening? Because Heathcote had an absolutely gilt-edged chance to make it 5-2 there.
Oh, goodness me. That is an unbelievable miscue, and it was a strange one. I think it was one of these... I mean, people rave about the new chalk. I'm not getting involved in that debate, but what I would say is that is a new chalk miscue. He may not get any kicks or big bounces with it, but this is a bizarre miscue. I mean, it's not jumped up in the air, it's just gone sideways off the face of the tip. That is absolutely... I mean, if it turns out that Carter wins a frame from here, then it is a huge turning point potentially in this match.
It's going to take a lot of recovering from, isn't it, from Heathcote's point of view, to lose the frame in those circumstances after Carter had given him the reprieve in missing the red. But equally, it's down to Carter to make the most of his own reprieve.
9.
He's got one awkward red to negotiate. Potentially awkward anyway. What a big frame this has now become. Seismic difference between 5-2 and 4-3, particularly given the circumstances of this frame, with Hearhcote miscuing as he did.
Well, he doesn't want to be straight here, and I think he'll be rolling this. Tell you what, yes, he wouldn't want the blue to go on the pink spot. Looks like it'll go up on the brown. That's not any real inconvenience. Now this is a very important stage of this match for it now. Very important.
Yeah, that was a better pot than it looked. Needed to be clean. Nice angle on the black. Great chance for Carter. Well, I'm sure when he returned to his chair just now, having overcut the short range red, you saw his reaction. He must have thought he was going to be 5-2 down. Could never have envisaged the kind of miscue that Hearhcote got.
24.
Still got a bit of work to do here. He just needs to concentrate his mind. You only need up to, and including the pink. And it looks easy, but you've still got to do these. Blue to pink is the only possible stumbling block here. If he gets an angle on the blue, I don't see why he won't be on the pink. And that miscue has absolutely turned everything. Well, that's not a perfect angle. He would like to have been a bit further down with the cue ball. He's going to have to go, it looks like he's going through bulk, so it's possible he could lose position. Unlikely, but possible.
46.
Played it pretty well with running side and topspin. So, we've got a real game on our hands if this goes in.
It feels like a seismic frame. That looked for all the world as though it was going Louis Heathcote's way when Carter missed the red. Heathcote already well in front with the balls at his mercy, only to miscue spectacularly. And that has cost him dear. Carter holds his nerve, clears the table to the pink, and from 4-0 behind, the 2 times world finalist is now just 1 behind at 4 frames to 3. A qualifying round here at the English Institute of Sport. Ali Carter fighting back from 4-0 down to just 4-3 behind against Louis Heathcote. But here's Rob Milkins closing out victory on table 2 and on the Eurosport player against the whirlwind Jimmy White, who battled through 2 qualifying rounds. Not much doubt which frame proved to be the key in that one. White potting the final frame ball black for 3-2, only to see the white go in as well. And 4-4-1 behind, and Milkins has polished off that match, which I fancy, looking at the scores, was rather closer than the scoreline suggests. But Milkins through. He's seeded to play Jimmy Robertson for a place at the Crucible, although Robertson's being given a good match by Ashley Carty. More on that in a moment. But what a dramatic frame, Neil, that 7th frame, when it looked as though Carter was going to punish Heathcote, only to miss a short range red, and then almost immediately that extraordinary miscue.
Different game now, this. Heathcote 4-3 up, but he might not feel he's even in front. So now we really are going to find out the player he is. I did say that earlier, but even more so now. If he can dig deep and still find a way of winning, then he'll actually be a better player than he's already looked tonight, and he has looked good. But 1 or 2 moments, just the wrong thing has happened. A couple of people telling me about that miscue. It's not like a miscue that I'm used to seeing. Cue ball just went off, didn't jump over the ball, it just went sideways.
Just to go back to Jimmy Robertson, who would started favourite against Ashley Carty this evening, but is 3-2 down as I speak, and Carty in front in the 6th frame as well. So Robertson with plenty of work to do. His form has rather tailed off since he won the European Masters a couple of seasons ago, beating Joe Perry in the final. And Perry will be in action tomorrow. In fact, that'll be our afternoon match on table 1 as Carter rattles the red. Just misses the blue on the way back to ball. Perry up against Jamie Clark.
Yes, because Joe Perry at the moment, he's one of the players that is here and has been tested for COVID, and he's in his room just waiting to get the knock on the door in the morning, so he's probably watching the snooker. I know Joe was looking to see the finish of 1 or 2 of the other matches. He was interested in the Daniel Wells-Andrew Higginson match, which footage did appear of. So Joe's probably just doing what everyone else is doing, amusing themselves until they're able to come out of their room. Strange times we live in, but watching a bit of some of the other drama is quite fun to do when you're not the person involved in it.
Yeah, and there was no shortage of drama in that match with Higginson winning on the final black. The victory he needed to stay on the tour. Meanwhile, Luca Brissell, who of course made a winning return from lockdown in winning the Championship League of Milton Keynes, in trouble there against Fergal O'Brien. 4-2 adrift. Our evening match tomorrow, by the way, features the multiple English amateur champion and former UK winner, or rather semi-finalist I should say, David Grace against the former world champion Graham Dott. But Carter will be feeling a lot happier now and relieved, I'm sure, to have got that third frame on the board when it looked as though his miss on the red was going to prove very costly. What a difference between 5-2 and 4-3. Hearhcote was looking good in that frame. He built a very handy lead. The balls were awkward. Carter played a brilliant shot to open the reds and looked favourite to clear up, only to miss, but then that miscue which changed everything. I think Carter will fancy the job now. It's going to be a tough task, I think, for Hearhcote to put that miscue out of his mind. That's got to be his job. Forget what's happened and focus on what's ahead. Sounds easy. In practice, it's rather different.
That was a fluke. He didn't know anything about that. He was very lucky because, I mean, he probably wouldn't have been even aware that the red went. Ali Carter's face was a picture there. You know, he's pulled himself right back into this match, and that was an outrageous fluke. I mean, the cue ball hit the side cushion before the bottom cushion on the safety shot, which wasn't as intended.
Yeah, you saw Louis hold his hand up in apology, but not much consolation for Carter. It's part of the game.
6.
The question is, how significant will it be? Only if Hearhcote can make something substantial will it really matter. And it will be interesting to see how he swallows the disappointment of the manner in which he lost that previous frame. And he's been given an early chance to do that.
7.
Well, black not available, but he did manage to make breaks earlier in the match where not all of the high value colours were in play all the time. It's the kind of visit where if you made 40 you'd be pleased. Feel it was a big break. I must believe that those 2 reds are a plant, that's all I can think of.
13. 40.
Slightly okay though, good cue ball through the gap.
20. 21.
Well, he's still playing at a good rhythm. He hasn't slowed himself down to a walk, as sometimes pressure can make a player do. A very good player to watch.
Yes, we've seen plenty to suggest that Heathcote's here to stay. He looks like a player, he really does. Seems to have an inbuilt
28.
confidence about his ability, which is absolutely vital, that you believe that you belong at this level. He's good to watch, he gets on with it. Good potter. He's made 350 plus breaks in this match. And that was another very attacking shot, which hasn't quite gone as planned.
It could be the red goes to the left middle. I'm not too sure whether the pink's in the way. I think he might have to run away here. Well, I don't think that goes. I would be clipping thin off that.
Oh, he's got 44.
Well, that's not a bad effort. 34 in the context of this match. It was a fluke. He's got to keep Carter at arm's length here.
Carter has always had a very good all-round game. He's a very astute safety player. He's made well over 300 career centuries, and he's got plenty of fight. It's a pretty intoxicating combination, that. And he's needed to show all of those skills this evening from a pretty precarious 4-0 deficit at the interval. And if he can recover to win this match from such a difficult situation, he'll take all the more from it.
He's unlucky there. See what he played. He played to screw across the table and hold for the black. He's gone through a small gap, and he didn't finish on the pink either. That is an important shot missed, and again Heathcote comes to the table with a chance here.
I can tell you the standard in the match between Luca Brissell and Fergal O'Brien, who have quite contrasting playing styles, is very high. O'Brien leading 4-2. Brissell has made centuries in the 2 frames he's won. And O'Brien has made breaks of 79, 50 and 87, so the heavy breaks have been flying in that match. Fergal in charge at the moment, 4-2 up on the Belgian. Can Louis Heathcote convert this chance into
5.
his long-awaited 5th frame? Looks certain to win the previous one before the miscue on the pink. And he's missed that one, and there are definitely signs now of a little bit of weakness in the game of Heathcote. Carter will certainly be conscious of that.
Well, we talk about frames being big, and there's been a couple, but now this feels an even bigger one. If Carter can find a way of clawing this one back, then he would be a warm favourite to win the match. He's stuck on 4 frames for what must seem like an eternity. But again, if
One.
he can find a way of winning it, of course Carter's at the table, so it's in his hands. But if it went to the underdog in this match, Heathcote, then you'd see things a little differently. So this is quite a big stage we're seeing here. Just mentioned some comebacks, and Matt Selt did lead Alan Taylor 4-0, but 5-0, but it does look like it might go 5-3. Not a certainty too, but 59 in front with 59 on Taylor there, so he's making a bit of a comeback from a looked like an impossible position. Now, I think he hit the jaw of the middle pocket there. Very unlucky to finish there.
5.
I suspect that hit the left-hand jaw slightly. Just came out to further to the middle of the pocket than it should have done. See it again. Now, did this hit the jaw? Yeah, I think it did. I think it would have gone slid further down the cushion than that, and he would have been on something surely. Well, he'll fist him, and he's making sure everyone knows how he feels.
He's lost none of the fire in his belly, has he, Carter? He's giving it everything in a bid to turn this match around from a very dodgy 4-0, and he's doing that. He's got it back to 4-3. But not amused at what's just happened there to scupper position. 33 the deficit. Still 8 reds on the table.
There is an argument that, you know, if he hits the jaw of the middle pocket, it's nobody's fault but his own. But I still think he was a bit unlucky.
Well, there's confirmation of what Neil was saying. Alan Taylor has had an outstanding week. Made the top break, 145 to put him in line for that £15,000 prize, which is carried over to the World Championship proper for the best break. 40,000 if anyone can make a maximum this year at the Crucible. But 5-0 down, seemingly out, now 5-3, something for Matt Selt to think about. We have had a couple of victories from 5-1 behind this week, none from 5-0.
Because what we don't know about Heathcote is whether he can draft out a frame or a couple of frames in a match.
And Jimmy Robertson is in trouble now. Ashley Carty extending his lead to 4-2. Winner to play Rob Milkins, conqueror of Jimmy White this evening. Liang Wenbo now a frame away against Alfie Burden, leading 5-2. Carter taking on the plant without success, but getting the cue ball back towards Bork at least.
I think that was half of it. I don't think he was that confident about the plant. Well, I know one thing. I'd have been confident of Heathcote knocking this in before the mid-session interval this long, Red, because he was absolutely demolishing shots like this. Long pot success rate has gone down a lot, but that's gone in.
1.
Yes, he's missed, I think, the last 4 or 5 that he's played. His strike rate was very good. And he's tickling in behind the brown here.
Heathcote 1.
Can't argue with that shot. You know, if you're not quite in the same form to play the brown in the middle and play a red at range, then do what he did.
Yeah, and if you're feeling the pressure, as I'm sure Louis must be, because he wouldn't be human not to be right now, given the match situation and having been 4-0 up, that's the kind of shot you can overhit or underhit. But he played it well. Delicate touch there to get bang behind the brown and put Carter in a bit of trouble.
What he wants to do is lay on the bottom red, the red that's below the black.
power on this.
Well, that'll surely go back.
Louis Heathcote 4.
Well, I say it'll go back, but he can cut this red back in. So this is another chance for Heathcote.
Yes, and
One.
the point being that Heathcote probably did play the right shot to play him behind the brown, because even as close as Carter got to that shot without hitting it, he left the red you pointed out. And this is the frame where Ali Carter wanted things to happen for him, and they haven't happened. It's not over yet, though.
Confirmation of Liang going 3 up with 4 to play on table 7.
He's taking on a big shot here. This could go wrong. The brown swinging the cue ball around. He's got to play on a red from it. It's kind of shot if he gets it and gets in behind a couple of those reds around the black spot, then surely the frame will be his.
Fergal O'Brien now just a frame away against Luca Brissell. He leads 5-2.
As we saw, he hadn't missed a fresh shot, and he still hasn't. 4 from 4, and he's played it well, in fact.
5.
Now, this is where that sort of fluency around the table is not going to count for a lot. It's a question of just getting enough points on the board. If he needs to take a little bit more time, then he should. Very big frame. He's playing a screw shot. He doesn't want to be doing what he did earlier with that miscue.
6.
Wow. He very nearly overcut that black, but it dropped in off the jaw, and he only needs this red. Carter would need a snooker. That wasn't clean either, but it went in.
Yeah, the main thing is it went in. And one way or another, looks like he's going to win the frames. Too many in front. He knows he probably needs one more red here to just guarantee winning the frame. And he's won all of his frames in style tonight, but this one has been a little different.
Yes, he enjoyed a slice of luck at the start of it with the fluke that enabled him to build a 30-odd lead. Carter then got a bit unlucky, I guess you could say.
Louis Heathcote 21.
He's coming back to the table, 59 behind, but again, it looks pretty forlorn for Carter in this one. Only 43 left. Once again, he needs 4 snookers, as he did earlier in the match, and he's missed the red, and he has conceded. So, Lewis Heathcote has stopped Ali Carter's fight back in its tracks and has put himself within a frame of victory. Carter is still in this match, make no mistake, but he's now got to win the last 3 to turn it in his favour. And Louis Heathcote on the cusp of surely the biggest win of his professional career to date. He leads Ali Carter by 5 frames to 3. Taylor, who was 5-0 behind, the man who possesses the highest break of the tournament. Joe O'Connor, 4-3 to the good in a tight one with Kurt Mafflin. Luca Brissell, the Championship League winner from last month, with all to do now against Fergal O'Brien. What a warrior Fergal is. He's a frame away at 5-2. Likewise, Liang over Alfie Burden. And Alan McManus, who's looking to play either Carter or Heathcote, leading 4-2 against China's Wu Yize.
Frame 9. Louis Heathcote to beat.
So frame 9 of a possible 11. Carter will be hoping he needs that 11th frame. He's got to win the last 3. Heathcote, of course, needs just this one.
Well, he's an aggressive player, but that might have seemed one shot too many. It's strange, isn't it? He won that last frame, and it was a very important one, but it was pretty hair-raising experience towards the end, wasn't it? Because a lot of the shots went in on the side of the pocket. I don't think he's over the line, personally. Not yet. I think Carter might still have something to say about this match if he can win this frame.
Yeah.
He's showing signs of nerves.
Was it extended? Yes.
That frame would have helped him, but now he's still got to finish off.
Okay.
Carter enjoying a little bit of a
Sorry.
chat with referee Leo Scullion.
No.
He's not given up yet, Carter. He may look more relaxed than he's been, but he hasn't given up this match. Referee can't help him with any of the equipment.
He's using practically everything there. No, there's no question Carter's still in this.
1.
And he will not go down without a fight. He'll make Heathcote earn it. And if he can win this frame, Heathcote will be feeling the heat again. He's not been in this kind of position very often, of course. The chance to take down one of the snooker's big names in a very significant match. Carter, on the other hand, has got all sorts of battle scars. He knows what it's like to win close matches, lose them, but he's missed the blue. He's taken his eye off the blue and splitting the pack, which he's done.
Carter 1.
Now, has he left anything?
Well, yes, it's the kind of shot that when you do go into the bunch off that, if you don't leave one, you're a little fortunate. This red to the middle is not easy. He's got to, if he pots this black, he's got to screw this so he avoids the red below the black, I think. It's in his way a little bit. Couldn't do it.
Nine.
Well, that's a good shot. In fact, that really is a good shot. As you saw, there wasn't much angle. And a stun run through.
$60. 70.
That's okay. Fish high enough on the red. I think he can run through fairly straight looking. Then we've got to go into other reds here. At the angle actually to stun across with the black. Little cannon of some description here. He's actually got quite a little on that shot. But he's a bit low on the black. Delicate little cannon here. Played it well.
$32. $33.
Well, this is the moment. This is the chance. How well he was scoring earlier on. He's got to find a way of just finishing this job off now before things start to get too interesting again.
He's bound to be feeling it. Certainly
39.
externally he looks calm enough. I suspect there's a lot going on underneath right now.
40.
One or two of these balls going in via the jaws of the pockets, but they're going in. That's all that matters, and he's edging his way towards what would be a landmark victory against a player with such a fine crucible pedigree. One of the game's great fighters, who's certainly put him under pressure in fighting back from 4-0 down to 4-3.
45.
But Heathcote has responded well. It's now just a case of finishing the job.
46.
Once again, nice cannon. He's played a couple of good ones in this frame like that and pretty positively struck them to hold for a red.
53.
So he's on the brink now. Ali Carter's qualified every year for the Crucible since 2003.
54.
And there's been no gaps, but there might be a gap in 2020 before he ever plays there again.
This is his fourth break of over 50. But by far the most important.
62.
Yes, he once or twice made breaks like this but didn't convert. Now we just got to keep going. And he's on the brink, and this goes in, it'll be Snooker's needed, and it's a well-deserved win. That's played very well with a few little scares in the second part of this match, but all things considered, Ali Carter was completely outgunned early on.
Yeah, and it was that pink which he miscued that felt like it could be a seismic shift in the match, but Heathcote, to his credit,
69.
has recovered well from that setback. Carter certainly asked the question in winning 3 frames on the bounce. He's given it everything in a bid to turn this around, as you would expect the captain to do, but it's going to be an unhappy birthday for Ali by the looks of things. And what a win for Louis Heathcote. 87 in the world, playing his first year on the professional tour, made the last 32 of the English Open his best ranking performance, but this, to beat a player of Carter's calibre and to put himself within one win of the Crucible is surely his finest hour. And Ali Carter has conceded, and that's what it means to Louis Heathcote. A little clench of the fist, and he certainly deserves that display of emotion. He's delighted, and no wonder. That was a terrific performance, it really was. Ali Carter threw plenty at him in the second half, but it wasn't enough. Louis Heathcote threw 6-3. Well, that's an upset for sure. And Ali Carter really didn't do a lot wrong in those first 4 frames, and that was where the match ultimately was won for Heathcote, who played so well. His long game was excellent. He scored heavily enough, and then when Carter came back at him, he had enough about him to regroup and win the last 2 frames for a truly famous victory. Next up, it's either Alan McManus or Hugh Weezer, who are still going strong on one of our outside tables, but Louis Heathcote, well, I was going to say he'll sleep well tonight. Maybe he won't. He'll be too excited thinking about that final qualifying match in a bid to get to the Crucible Theatre. These are the results from earlier today. Tremendous performance from Alex Ersenbacher, the Swiss, beating last year's semi-finalist at the Crucible, Gary Wilson, and it was a high-class match throughout. Wilson played his part. He was just outplayed. Scott Donaldson, one of the most improved players on the